Steelers. Here we go. Welcome into the Steelers Talk Live Show. I am your host, Jack Sperry. That is your host, Jeffrey, or that is your producer, Jeffrey Cooperstein. Coop, how are you doing? The last time we were here on this channel, it was last Wednesday, almost a week ago. It's hard to believe at this point.
Oh, yeah.
But very disappointing day on Christmas Day. It didn't completely ruin my holiday. I got to go home and, open some presents with Cassie, and it was still a good evening. But obviously, in terms of being a Steelers fan, wasn't the best day at all. 3 straight blowout losses. And now you go into this season finale with a lot of people, including many Steelers fans, not believing in this team.
Yeah, you can count me among those. I'm down. I'm down bad. I'm kind of sad about what's happening to this team right now.
Yep.
You need to cheer me up.
I am more optimistic than you are, and hope maybe by the end of this video I'll be able to cheer you up. I do think the Steelers can still turn things around. It's just a matter of will they. I think they have a good team. I think they have a lot of really good talent on this team. You're getting Joey Porter Jr. back this week. We'll talk about that in our first segment today. And I think that this has been a team that has done a really good job against the Cincinnati Bengals these last 2 years. And I think that they have a lot of things going their way heading into this week. So we'll be breaking all those things down in our Week 18 preview, which will be our second segment today. Make sure you guys like the stream if you haven't already, to help this stream to be the best that it can be. And if you guys didn't hear already, the Steelers will be playing once again on a Saturday. It'll be Saturday night. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. It'll be against the Cincinnati Bengals at Acrisure Stadium. If you win, maybe you win the division. It depends what happens with Ravens and Browns in the afternoon game on Saturday. But if you win, you do lock up at least the 5 seed in the AFC playoffs. You could get up to the 3rd seed. So hopefully the Steelers can, as Mike Tomlin put it, get the stench off of them from the last 3 losses with a win over the Bengals and end their season, which would certainly be great, Coop.
Now, we do have some good news, and we'll get to that in the news and rumors, but there will be some reinforcements for the Steelers coming in Week 18, so hopefully that does help them get on the right track. I don't know, man. The vibes are just off. I don't know.
I know you are really down bad right now after these 3 straight losses, and I understand why. It's definitely, especially after last week, you got George Pickens back, you got Deshaun back, you had Larry Ogunjobi back. The only starter that was missing was JPJ. So the excuses have really run out for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I laid out in our video yesterday the 5 things the Steelers need to fix. I think if they can fix most of those things, if not all of those things, they can potentially win a playoff game, which hasn't happened here in Pittsburgh in 2016. So when this team went to the AFC Championship and eventually lost. But I think that this is a Steelers team that is still more than capable of beating good football teams, and I'm hoping that they can prove that over the next couple of weeks. Okay, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks before we get into our content today. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections. First shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your guys' lineups. You guys can see here, we got a college football playoff projection here. Of course, you got the games both on Tuesday night and on Wednesday as well. Taking the more here on Melquan Stovall here. We're going to take the more on Will Howard passing yards, Ohio State quarterback, and then we're going to take the more on Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State as well. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. If you guys want to send in a donation today, we'd greatly appreciate that. I'm going to say this right now. $10 will get you raffle tickets today for our raffle on Saturday. So half off raffle tickets if you guys put in your donations today instead of on game day. During our game day watch parties, guys, it takes $20 to get into our jersey raffles. Today, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to get in on the raffle. For every $10 that you spend, it's 1 raffle ticket. So if you put in a $50 donation, that's 5 raffle tickets. to start off your day on Saturday for that watch party. So you guys can send in your donations via Super Chat. If you don't know how to Super Chat, you guys can click that money symbol close to the live chat room, and then you guys can send in any dollar amount that you want, or I'll actually double your raffle tickets if you guys use Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal. If you guys use @Jack-Sperry on Venmo, #CaptainJack19 on Cashapp, or @CaptainJackRabbit on PayPal, I'll give you 2 raffle tickets for every $10 you donate on today's show. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support.
I see people talking in the chat about playoff scenarios and whatnot, so I just wanted to bring these up real quick.
Sounds good.
So this is how we can win the AFC North.
So this is how the Steelers win the AFC North and get a home playoff game. And by the way, the only team that they can play in a home scenario if they win the division is the Los Angeles Chargers. So if you win the division, you will be playing the Chargers, who currently have the 6th seed. But the Ravens need to lose on Saturday afternoon, and then the Steelers need to win versus the Bengals on Saturday night.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson might be the worst football player to ever put on an NFL uniform.
Yeah, I don't feel particularly good about the Steelers' chances of coming away with the AFC North division crown. They kind of had their opportunity to do so a couple weeks ago when they played the Ravens, and they kind of threw that away with that pick 6 that Russell Wilson threw. So right now the Steelers currently hold the 5 seed in the AFC playoff picture.
I will say this. They can beat the Houston Texans.
Yeah, absolutely. The Texans are very beatable. We'll go over those scenarios in our first segment today, so don't worry, guys. We will get into that. I do want to give a quick shout-out here to all our Black Diamonds. This is the week I'm going to make sure I get all the Black Diamond stickers done for the rest of the season here, because it's been far too long. I got some days off. I'm off on Wednesday. I'm off on Friday this week. So Cassie's going to keep me honest here. I'm going to make sure I get all the rest of the Black Diamond stickers that I haven't gotten to this season. I'll make sure to get to them. I want to give a big shout out here to all of our Black Diamonds. These are the people that have put in at least $500 or more on a singular Steelers Talk live show. This is the bedrock of this community. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And if I haven't gotten to your sticker yet, don't you worry. I will have your sticker done by this Saturday's game, where we'll be revealing the final edition of Steelers Talk Black Diamonds for the 2024 regular season. Here's a shout out here to all of our latest Black Diamonds: Christine Miller, Thick Klappa, Unknown, Mason Ingleby, Wolf Vane, Captain Ford Guns, Troy Abuga, and you could be next. Appreciate your guys' support so much. And you guys can give me a follow on X if you want. I put out my Russell Wilson film analysis on there. I put out my Steelers takes every single day on there. I put out my weekly NFL power rankings, as well as my weekly NFL QB index. So if you guys want NFL content from me on Twitter, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. We also have a Steelers Talk Instagram account where we put short form content on there outside of this YouTube channel. So if you want a daily blast of Steelers news and rumors, you can find us at Steelers CS. And now Coop's going to give some shout outs here, because we actually got a pretty large Venmo here and a pretty decent Cash App here to start today's show. So Coop, give the shout out to the real ones in the chat that are currently down there.
What up, Eric Dexter? We do not have a 50-50 shot, because the Cleveland Browns are going to be playing Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is genuinely the worst QB I think I've ever seen play in the NFL. Eric Dexter, what up? All is good, my friend. What up, Pickens Burner? Pizza is goated. Pizza is goated. What's your favorite pizza flavor, pizza? He said pizza's goated.
Pizza's goated.
And look, I mean, you can't go wrong with pizza. Even bad pizza's pretty good. So.
Depends.
Dude.
Really bad pizza is bad pizza.
You can get Little Caesars pizza, and it's good.
Hey, don't shit on Little Caesars,
but
man.
That's like the lower end is what I'm saying. Oh my.
Yeah, Coop says oh my to the big one we just got. So again, guys, every $20 you spend on today's show, you get half off raffle tickets. Okay, so usually it's $20 raffle tickets on our watch parties. But today, half off raffle tickets, so $10. Every $10 you spend is one raffle ticket for the Steelers jersey we're raffling off on Saturday. So we'll get to these first couple of Venmo alerts here before we get into our first segment today. I want to give a big shout out here to Super Steelers Gaming, Tristan White, Sasha Johnson. And before we get things going here, I hope she's watching. Terza Boware. Terza, you're new to our community this season. You joined us about halfway through the year, but you have been such a real one here. And look what Terza made for us here at Steelers Talk, guys. She made us this awesome sign that says Pittsburgh on there. You guys can see the glitter and the Steelers logo on there. This is absolutely awesome, man. So Terza, if you're watching, thank you so much for this sign, and we're going to be keeping this here at our desk here at Chat Sports Studios.
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably be showing it during the games as well. This is really, really cool.
You know what I can say for a fact? Mitchell Renz has nothing.
Mitchell Renz has nothing on Terza Bullwear. That's absolutely. So I want you guys to be spamming Terza in the chat right now because she's been such a real one.
Mitchell Renz was in this studio earlier, and I actually just hijacked it from him without him knowing and said, "Nah, we're taking this one today."
Yeah, until you guys beat us in a super chat battle, you can go to a different studio,
yeah, we'll
Raiders. Guess, speaking of channels that go bang, this one's rolling in from Dylan Lewandowski. Bang! Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Dylan Lewandowski, my man, coming in with a $100 Venmo here. That's 10 raffle tickets for my man Dylan for Saturday's game. And he did he send in? He says no, he didn't. He didn't put in a
shout out Dylan.
Dylan just put in a silent message, and then Luke Askew wants 4 raffle tickets. $20 for Luke. By the way, it's 20 raffle tickets for Dylan because it's a double on Venmo and Cashapp. So 20 raffle tickets for Dylan, putting in the 100. Luke Askew gets 4 raffle tickets for putting in the 20. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been real ones. You're black diamonds for a reason. I absolutely love you guys, man. Okay.
Look who's back.
Look who's back. Back again. Omar's burner, my man. We've been chopping it up on X lately, talking about the latest wide receiver rumors. He is back now. It says, cue the clay. He's back. Had to let Steelers talk in on a little secret to keep on Garrett Wilson this offseason. Appreciate you, Sperry and Coop. We appreciate you, Omar's burner. I think Garrett Wilson is going to be definitely a storyline to watch for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year.
Who is more of a Steeler, Garrett Wilson or Brandon Ayuk?
Well, now Garrett Wilson. But, here's the thing. If he wants out of New York, I think the Steelers would be very aggressive to go get him. Now, maybe Omar tries to play hardball again, and he's okay with paying George Pickens a big contract this offseason, and maybe that's the case. But personally, Coop, I would think about even trading this is going to piss a lot of people off. I would consider trading George Pickens along with like a mid-round pick to get a guy like Garrett Wilson. I really, really would. I love George Pickens. I think he's a top 5 receiver talent-wise in the league. But, the effort issues have been a problem with him. And, the personality stuff, he's late to practices and late to meetings. And, is he really a team guy? And, I think that's a valid question to ask. And if the answer 100%. To that question is no, and you have an opportunity to get a guy in Garrett Wilson, who we already know is a star wide receiver in this league, you pair him up with the right quarterback, he could be something special.
Boxy says, Jack Sperry, are you 6'6"? Let me see on a tape measure.
I mean, we're not going to get the tape measure out, but we can get Coop to stand next to me if you want.
I'll tell you, I'm 5'10". I'll come stand next to him.
Coop is 5'10", so he's going to come stand next to me here for a second. If you're here for Steelers content, don't you fret. We're going to get into that here in about 3 seconds, in about 3 minutes, I should say. But we got about 150 Yinzers in this chat room right now, so I'm 6'6", he's 5'10". I mean, you guys can just see, like he's looking up. All right, he's got to look up pretty high. So I want everybody to give a big shout out to Cassie, my girlfriend in the chat. She does a great job killing the bots for us. She did a great job planning everything for me and my brothers who were here this weekend. One of my brothers left a piece of gum on my windowsill.
It was Joe for sure.
No, it was Alex.
No way.
He is the worst, man. The thing that Alex was known for, Alex, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, he would leave eaten apple cores all over the house. His thing is he never puts anything away, just leaves it. And he did that to a piece of gum on our windowsill, and now I got to clean that up when I get home tonight, man. Like,
dude.
Alex, if you're watching.
Alex should fly back down and do it
Yes,
himself.
Alex should fly back down to Dallas and pick that shit up himself, man.
What
Just
a joke.
Straight up disrespectful from brother Alex, man. Okay, let's get into the content here. The latest news and rumors on the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming at you guys right now. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, we got a bunch of great Steelers news and rumors to cover for you guys here on a Monday. First up, we got the latest Steelers injury news and updates, including a big one on Joey Porter Jr. getting ready for this game against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 18. Then I'm going to break down the numbers and why I still believe Russell Wilson is still clearly QB1 here in Pittsburgh, at least for the rest of this season. And then we'll finish up today's show with AFC playoff matchup scenarios. There's only 4 teams the Steelers could play on Wild Card Weekend. We'll be breaking down the most likely teams and scenarios at the end of today's show. Now, before we get into the content today, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we will be going live for our live watch party, our last regular season watch party of this season. Steelers versus Bengals. Steelers trying to get the best possible seed, maybe even try to win the AFC North Division if somehow the Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday. We're going to be going live an hour and a half, an extra long pregame show to finish out the regular season here on Steelers Talk. It's going to start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is an 8 o'clock Eastern kick, so 90 minutes before the Steelers kick off, me and Coop are going to be right here talking some Steelers football with you guys, getting ready for that big matchup, so make sure you click that subscribe button right now. So Mike Tomlin, with some big news today at his weekly press conference, says that he expects cornerback Joey Porter Jr. to be back in the fold this week in a big matchup here in Week 18 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. It was originally reported that Joey Porter Jr. probably wouldn't play here in Week 18, that he would be back for the wild card round, but now Mike Tomlin says he expects number 24 to be on the field on Saturday night. And listen, man, this is big news here because the Steelers get their enforcer back on the outside in the secondary, all right? And I know that Joey Porter Jr. has a little bit of a holding issue at times, and sometimes he does get some defensive pass interference. He's very physical, all right? But you really want to have that enforcer, that bigger-bodied corner that can go up against bigger-body-type receivers like T. Higgins on a week-to-week basis. And Joey Porter Jr. is a very important cog to the machine that is the Steelers' defense if this defense wants to get back to putting up elite production like they were in the first half of the 2024 season as we approach the NFL playoffs. Also, it appears that a big-time Steelers starter here, a veteran Steelers starter, may be getting benched, and that is Cam Sutton. Yesterday, we talked about how I would bench Cam Sutton for Beanie Bishop Jr. in the slot, and it appears that that is what's going to be happening here. Zachary Smith here from Steelers Now said on Twitter yesterday, don't expect to see much of Sutton this week. So I do trust Zachary on this, and I do think that Sutton is probably going to see much less playing time. Maybe he's not completely benched. Maybe he does play a little bit, but I do expect Beanie Bishop Jr. to out-rep him this week in the slot. Also, this should be a big week for the other starting corner here in Pittsburgh, Dante Jackson, who has really struggled in coverage this year. And we talked about that on yesterday's show as well. You guys can check that out after today's show if you want to get my full thoughts on D-Jack. But, going into the playoffs here, if he continues to struggle, if he struggles against Jamar Chase, if he struggles against T. Higgins, he struggles against whoever he's matched up against this week, I mean, you got a guy in Corey Trice Jr. waiting in the wings here that is somebody that I would seriously consider. Now, right now, I do think Joey Porter Jr., Dante, and then, of course, Beanie Bishop Jr. in the slot, that's going to be your starting trio this week. But if Dante Jackson has another week where he's struggling to pick up his assignments, where he's struggling against the receiver that he's going up against in one-on-one coverage, if he continues to struggle in coverage, I might consider going to Corey Trice Jr. to be this team's number 2 corner heading into the playoffs. Now, it might depend on the matchup and what receivers you're going up against on a week-to-week basis, but I thought Corey Trice Jr. played a really, really good game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's only got better the more games that he has played in the National Football League. So if Dante Jackson continues to struggle, I would consider turning to Corey Trice Jr. in the postseason. Some other returning players for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, Ben Skoranek, the wide receiver and special teams specialist, is slated to be back this week after suffering a hip injury against the Baltimore Ravens. Then Justin Fields, who suffered an abdominal injury is going to be not an abdominal. He's going to be on the field this week as the backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. And listen, man, this team is getting healthy, all right? You can say whatever you want about the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they're playing on the field, but listen, man, they're getting healthy at just the right time. There's no excuses heading into the postseason. You don't have any major injuries to any key players on offense or defense at this point. And as long as you get past this Week 18 game versus the Bengals unscathed, you should be going into the postseason with all your starters available and with no excuses on the injury front. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will the Steelers secondary bounce back this week with Joey Porter Jr. re-entering the fold? Give me simply a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our friends at PrizePicks, our sponsor today. While I'm talking about our sponsor, make sure you give me a yes or a no for today's pinned comment. Now let's get into our sponsor today, which is PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so while withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure, when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup when you use promo code CLNS. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. We got college football playoff games this week, guys, so I'm going to take the more on Selquan Stovall here with the receiving yards. I'm going to take the more on Will Howard passing yards, the Ohio State quarterback, and I'm going to take the more on Carnell Tate, the Ohio State wide receiver, and rushing plus receiving touchdowns. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So now let's shift over to the quarterback situation. You know, there's a lot of discourse on Steelers Twitter right now that the Steelers should move on from Russell Wilson right now and go to Justin Fields this late into the game, this late into the season. And honestly, guys, I don't think that's the right call to make. I think Russell Wilson, despite some of the struggles offensively here the last 4 games, I think the numbers still show that Russell Wilson gives this team this year the best possible chance at success in the postseason here down the stretch. You take a look at the numbers this year per game and per attempt here from Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields. The Steelers offense is still scoring more points per game, over a field goal more per game with Russell Wilson. That's despite some of the struggles here in these last 4 weeks. And then you get the yards per attempt, still over almost a yard more per attempt than Justin Fields. So Russell Wilson doing a better job and more efficient than Justin Fields is, more explosive than he is as a passer, than the total yards per game. And I keep hearing, Jack, but what about the running that Justin Fields provides? Well, Russell Wilson makes up for that with his arm by getting more total yards per game, and it's almost 15 more yards per game there, guys. And then you got the big-time throw percentage much higher for Russell Wilson, who is still throwing big-time throws over 5% of his pass attempts, and the turnover-worthy play percentage, even though it's gone up the last 2 weeks, it is still much lower than Justin Fields, 1.9 for Russell Wilson for 2.8 for Justin Fields. But Jack, all Justin Fields does is win. Oh, he's got a better win percentage than Russell Wilson. Oh, this team was so much better with Justin Fields than there at quarterback. Well, here's the thing, man, and here's really the big point. When Justin Fields was in earlier in the season, this defense was playing much, much better. In the games that Fields won, all right, he went 4-2. In those 4 games that he won, the Steelers defense gave up less than 10 points in those games. I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson would have gone 4-0 in those games as well, guys, okay? And then you look at the defensive points per game allowed. In Russell Wilson's win, it's over 10 more points allowed with Russell Wilson in at quarterback. So Russ has had more to overcome in terms of what the defense has given up. Justin Fields benefited from having arguably the best defense in football when he was playing, and he still only got this offense to about 20 points per game. And despite the offense having the ball for less, Russell Wilson and this offense is scoring more than when Justin Fields was in there. So I'm sick and tired of hearing this argument that this team was better with Justin Fields. Yeah, it was, because the defense was playing better, not because Justin Fields was better. And I wish people would bring that context into the situation. And when it comes to beating teams that score over 20 points a game against the Steelers, Russell Wilson has won 2 of those games this year. It was the Cincinnati game and the Washington game where the Steelers defense gave up more than 20 points and the Steelers still won the football game. You know how many times Justin Fields did that in the first 6 weeks? 0 times, right? They gave up, I believe it was 27 points to the Indianapolis Colts, and then they gave up 20 points to the Dallas Cowboys, and they lost both of them. All right, so when I look at the numbers, when I look at, the context of the entire situation, Russell Wilson hasn't been perfect, especially these last 4 games, but he's still the best that the Steelers have right now, guys, and I think that he is the answer as we approach the final stretch of this season. But let me know down there in the comments section, who should start for the Pittsburgh Steelers down the final home stretch here of the 2024 season? Type RW for Russell Wilson or type JF for Justin Fields. I think the numbers clearly indicate, and by the way, the tape clearly indicates Russell Wilson is the better passer. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. So now let's talk about some playoff matchup scenarios here in terms of the teams that the Steelers could play against in Wild Card Weekend. Depending on what happens here in Week 18. So there's only 4 teams that the Steelers could play on Wild Card Weekend. They could play the Bills, they could play the Ravens, they could play the Texans, all of which on the road. Or if they win the division, the only team they could play is the Los Angeles Chargers at Acrisure Stadium. Okay, so those are your 4 options. Now, in terms of the one that I think is the most likely, I think the Houston Texans is probably the most likely. And I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers can beat the Houston Texans. The Texans have been a team with a terrible offensive line. I think that the Steelers' pass rush would absolutely eat against that terrible offensive line. And then you look at, C.J. Stroud. He's put the ball in harm's way a ton this year. The Steelers are first in the league in takeaways with 31 this season. I think even on the road, the Steelers can go into Houston and they can beat that football team in a playoff scenario. I certainly feel confident in the Steelers' ability to get a W if that's the opponent. Then the second most likely opponent, I think, is the Baltimore Ravens, okay? And the reason why I think this is because the way that you play the Ravens is if they win, they lock up the number 3 seed. Buffalo wins against the Patriots this weekend. They lock up the number 2 seed. And then the Steelers lose versus Cincinnati, and they get the 6th seed, which is more than possible, all right? So Baltimore is certainly a team that I think the Steelers can beat once again. Why do I think that? Because they already beat them when they were fully healthy, all right? Now, you might be pointing to the loss that they took in Baltimore a couple weeks ago, but A, the Steelers weren't fully healthy in that game. B, they just came off a game against a really, really physical Philadelphia team that nobody has played well coming off a game against that football team this year. And I think that, even on the road, I think the Steelers can go back into Baltimore and they can make it a game against, yes, Lamar Jackson, who has not played well in postseason play in his career, and Derrick Henry. I think if you have a completely healthy Steelers defense, they can stop the Baltimore Ravens and beat the Ratbirds again. Then the third most likely team, I think that the third most likely scenario is the Steelers win the division and they play the Los Angeles Chargers at home in a home playoff scenario. And I would also take the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Los Angeles Chargers. So now that's 3 opponents, 3 for 3. I think the Steelers can beat all 3 of those opponents, all right? And, the Chargers came into Acrisure Stadium. They scored 10 points against the fully healthy Steelers defense earlier in the year. Now, granted, Taylor Heineke played most of the second half, but I really don't think with the group of weapons that the Chargers have that they're going to be just marching it down the field against the Steelers defense, especially if it's fully healthy. And this time you got Russell Wilson, who is the better quarterback compared to Justin Fields, who started that game earlier in the year. And this is how you guys win the division this weekend. The Ravens need to lose versus Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the Browns, pretty unlikely if you ask me, but hey, the Browns beat them earlier in the year, and then the Steelers need to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Those 2 things happened. The Pittsburgh Steelers walk away with the AFC North crown. Now, the least likely opponent, I think, is the Buffalo Bills. And the reason why is because the only way I really see Buffalo playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in round 1 is if they lose to the New England Patriots this weekend, and I don't think that's going to happen. All right, I saw that Patriots team play the Chargers this past weekend. It's bad. The Chargers didn't even play that well, and they beat them 40-7. All right, Josh Allen is trying to lock up his MVP case this week. I think that they're going to be trying to win. They're going to be trying to lock up the number 2 seed, and I just can't really say that I think Buffalo's going to be there. But if it does happen that way and the Steelers play the Bills yet again in the first round this year, I can't say I love the Steelers' chances. This is the one team that I think the Steelers have pretty much no shot of beating in the playoffs, all right, or especially in the first round on the road in Buffalo, all right? So I think they absolutely could come away with a playoff victory if it's against Houston, if it's against Baltimore, or if it's against LA. But man, if you get locked up with that Buffalo team in round one, I think this season's going to be coming to a swift end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But where I'm at right now, guys, is I still think that the Steelers are in a decent spot to potentially win their first playoff game since 2016. Now, they have to turn around some things on defense. The secondary needs to play much more sound. They have to communicate better. Offensively, the offensive line needs to continue to play better than they have throughout this season. Russell Wilson can't turn the football over. They got to get the ball to George Pickens more. There's certain things that this team needs to do for sure, but I mean, all those things are fixable in my opinion, and I think it's very possible, if not likely, that the Pittsburgh Steelers end up winning their first playoff game since 2016 once we get to next week. So before we wrap things up here, I want to take some stock in where the Steelers are in terms of the offensive team stats and the defensive team stats. Since Russell Wilson took over as this team's quarterback, they're 12th in points per game, 13th in yards per game, 16th in yards per play, 12th in third down percentage, second to last in red zone percentage. That's the one area that they're really bad in. And the giveaways for the entire season, they're currently sitting at 16, which ranks 10th in the league. So pretty average offense when you take all the numbers here since week 7. But then you go to the defensive stats, and, yes, it hasn't been as good lately. And, some of these numbers have dipped significantly over these last 3 games. All right, now, you used to be in the top 3 in points per game. Now you're just inside the top 10. Yards per game and yards per play used to be in the top 10. Now you've snuck out of there. All right, then the third down percentage, you're still doing a very good job there. It's second in the league. The red zone percentage is about league average. But the thing that this defense has done consistently well throughout this season, maybe except these last 2 weeks, is turn the football over. They're tied for first in the league right now with 31 takeaways. That's going to have to be the identity of this Steelers defense if they want to win a playoff game this year. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until tomorrow, guys, here we go, Steelers. First segment in the books, Mr. Coop. Lots to talk about on that segment.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that popped out to you or spoke to you during that segment there?
I was trying to get you to talk me into the Steelers winning a playoff game.
And it just wasn't working?
I'm just not there.
Well, you even said they can beat the Texans.
They absolutely can beat the Texans.
And I think that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
Now, you think they're going to lose to Cincinnati. So in that case, they'd be playing the Ravens. And I'm guessing you don't think they can beat the Ravens, even though we beat the Ravens earlier in the year.
Different team.
What do you mean it's a different team?
Different team.
Like the Steelers were a different team? I mean, yeah, they had way less of their starters. They didn't have GP for that game. They didn't have Joey Porter Jr. for that game. They didn't have Deshaun Elliott for that game. They didn't have Dante Jackson for that game. You think that's the same Steelers team that would be there in the playoffs?
I think the Steelers team that played the Ravens this last time is the team that we're going to get.
Even though we're implementing Pickens and GPJ and Dante and Deshaun and Larry Ogunjobi and all these guys? I don't know, man. I disagree. I hope not. I think it'd be more like the game that we saw at Acrisure. I still think it'd be close. I'm not saying the Steelers would for sure win, but we know Lamar Jackson, what are the 2 things that Lamar Jackson stinks in? Stinks in the playoffs, stinks against Mike Tomlin. You're combining them. I think the Steelers can absolutely beat the Ravens in the playoffs.
I hope so.
I know you hope so. I know you're not feeling good after the 3-game losing skid, but I'm trying to convince you, man. I'm trying to stay optimistic, all right? I really am. And I do think, if they've turned around some of these things, and we've seen the Steelers turn it around after 3-game losing skids before.
We have.
Remember last year? You said the season was over, no chance, and I was with you. All right, after you lost to the Cardinals, Colts, and the Patriots, that 3-game skid, it's like, oh, we have to run the table with Mason Rudolph? How are we going to do that? What'd they do? They did that. They turned it around, all right? So I'm holding out hope here. If you want to say I'm drinking the hopium, whatever.
You have no choice.
You can say that, but I really think that, we're going to get to this preview here. I think the Steelers have a good chance of winning this week. I think that they have a good chance of playing Houston. And I think they have a good chance going into NRG Stadium and beating that football team to get this fan base its first playoff victory since 2016.
This fan base deserves more than 0 playoff wins in the last 8 seasons.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you don't get a playoff win this year, we're starting to knock on the door of a decade of no playoff wins.
It's unacceptable.
And that is unacceptable for a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
If they don't win a playoff game, are we having a conversation about the head coach of this football team?
I mean, we're always going to have discussions. Nothing's going to happen, though.
I agree. I don't think anything will happen.
I mean, this team was projected. I think the over-under win-losses-wise this year was 7.5 wins. The expectations for the Steelers was last place in the AFC North. Remember, everybody was like, oh, the Browns, Bengals, and Ravens are so much better. The Steelers are going to win 5 to 7 games. And what'd they do? I mean, they won double-digit wins again with a quarterback that nobody thought is worthy of 10 wins in Russell Wilson. The defense played great in the first half, not so great in the second half. I mean, the story of this season still has to be written, but, and the Steelers still control their own destiny here. But they're going to have to turn it around and turn it around fast. That's for damn
fast.
Sure. All right, let's get into did we get any more super chats here? I don't think so.
Not that I know of.
All right, we are good. Let's get into our preview right now. Steelers versus Bengals here in Week 18. It's coming at you right now. The Steelers will take on the Cincinnati Pussycats in the season finale here in Week 18 on Saturday night. And, man, I'm really hoping that this Pittsburgh Steelers team can turn things around to finish up their season heading into the 2024 playoffs. Welcome into the Week 18 preview here on Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and we will be going live on Saturday, me and Coop, for an hour and a half, an extended pregame tailgate here. We usually go live an hour before kickoff. We're going live an hour and a half before kickoff on Saturday for our regular season finale watch party here on Steelers Talk. It all starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be covering the end of the Ravens and Browns game, setting up the stage for the Steelers versus Bengals starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is the kick. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We have the largest Steelers watch parties anywhere on the YouTube platform. We really do appreciate all of your support here at Steelers Talk. So make sure you join our family here and click that sub button. Okay, let's get into this matchup here. The 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals still alive to potentially make the playoffs here. They need some help, but if they win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they will have a shot to be in the 2024 playoffs if I believe it's the Dolphins and the Broncos both lose on Sunday. But the Pittsburgh Steelers still have a shot to win the AFC North. Now the Ravens need to lose to the Browns and DTR, and the chances of that are pretty low in my opinion. But you can really solidify yourself here with the 5th seed in the AFC playoff picture with a win, all right? And that would mean you go to Houston, a very beatable team on the road on Wild Card Weekend. So I think that Mike Tomlin said it best. The Steelers need to get the stench of the last 3 weeks off of this football team here so you can start feeling a little bit better about yourself heading into the postseason. If the Steelers can put together a win this week and end the Bengals season, sweep them for the 2024 campaign, I absolutely believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers can feel good about themselves heading into Wild Card Weekend. You guys can take a look here at what happened the last time these two faced off, and it was the best offensive performance we've seen from a Steelers offense in a very long time. Russell Wilson, his best game as a Steeler, 414 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, was absolutely phenomenal all game long, was making throws off platform, off schedule, in the red zone, consistently answering the bell, despite throwing an early pick 6, which was freaking bullshit, by the way, because the refs completely gave that to Cam Taylor-Britt, who ripped down George Pickens by his helmet. Despite that, the Steelers showed resilience, and they won that game 44-38. And also, keep in mind here, Mike Tomlin sucks on short weeks, but if you give him extra time to prepare, this guy is one of the best in the league in terms of his record when he has ample time to prepare for a football game. And keep in mind also, Cincinnati played on a Saturday, so this is pretty much a normal schedule for them. So I think that the Steelers have the advantage in that regard. Now we take a look at the Steelers' injuries heading into the week. Joey Porter Jr., Ben Skoranek are expected to play this week, so those are 2 big additions. Skoranek as a special teamer and also as a supplementary wide receiver piece. Joey Porter Jr., of course, is the enforcer as your number 1 corner. Justin Fields is also expected to play. He hurt his abs a couple weeks weeks ago running his sole run of that Ravens game. He was out last week. He's expected to be back for this game. And, two people that could potentially return, they're slated to potentially get a return. Roman Wilson, the wide receiver, is slated for a potential return this week. But honestly, with him missing so much time, I kind of doubt they throw him in there in this big of a spot. And then Cole Holcomb with that knee injury hasn't played all season. Honestly, guys, with all the miscommunication stuff, I don't think it's a good idea to throw a guy out there that hasn't played since midway through last season and hasn't played at all this year. So I don't expect those guys to play. But then the Bengals injuries this week. Now, Chase Brown, Amarius Mims, I would probably expect those guys to play. But Sam Hubbard, I would probably classify as doubtful at this point. He suffered a PCL injury in the Titans game a couple weeks back. I don't expect him on the field for Cincinnati. Trent Brown and Daxton Hill both could potentially return from IR this week, but they're currently on IR. Actually, no, I think that they are on IR and they can't return this week, so don't expect Trent Brown or Daxton Hill. The guys that could return off of IR are DJ Turner, who has a collarbone injury, Evan McPherson, their kicker, who's dealing with a groin, and Logan Wilson, who's dealing with a knee injury. And by the way, all three of these players, very important players for the Cincinnati Bengals, both on special teams and defense. Talking about the Bengals here and their results so far this season, really tough start. Lost to the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Commanders to start the season. Then, they haven't really beaten a lot of good teams. Like, you look at the teams that they've beaten throughout this season. Panthers, Giants, Browns, Raiders, Cowboys, Titans, Browns, and Broncos. That's a very unimpressive resume from the Cincinnati Bengals. If you want to talk about the Steelers not being able to beat good teams, the Cincinnati Bengals have not been able to beat good teams all season long, but that win against the Broncos was huge for them last week and has put them in position to potentially make a push for the postseason here in Week 18. So this is who they are here and what they like to run. Zach Taylor is their head coach. He's 45, 52, and 1 as their head coach there in Cincinnati, so below 500 record. He runs the offense and he does call plays, and he runs a hybrid style offense, kind of a hybrid between the McVay style West Coast and then kind of the spread formation, kind of heavy shotgun type of stuff we see from teams in college, see from teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. He likes to incorporate a lot of different concepts for Joe Burrow. And then Lou Anarumo is their defensive coordinator, runs a balanced 4-2 system, likes to do a lot of man-match coverage. And, over the last 2 seasons, the people on the back end there in Cincinnati have not done a good job in coverage with those match rules. So you take a look here at the Bengals offense. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That's the holy trinity there in Cincinnati. That's just the way it is, man. It's very difficult to guard both Jamar and T because they're both dominant players, and Joe Burrow really good at getting the ball out. When he's not getting the ball out, he's improvising at a super high level. He's playing MVP caliber football this year. Also keep your eye on Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki as other weapons at Burrow's disposal. Take a look here at the team trends, and you can see here the Bengals offense, one of the best in the game. All right, you can make an argument for top 5 offense, definitely in the top 10. They're below average in turning the ball over, so keep that in mind here for the Steelers. Steelers were able to turn the Bengals over 3 times the last time these two teams collided, so keep that in mind as you head into this football game. And you look at the points per game trends here. The Bengals are scoring 28.3 points per game. The Steelers are giving up 20.5, which would predict 24 points for the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday night. Then we take a look at the defensive side of the ball, dealing with some injuries like we talked about earlier, but they got Trey Hendrickson as their superstar player, Jermaine Pratt, B.J. Hill, and Cam Taylor-Britt. Like, the fact that I'm putting those 3 guys on the key defensive pieces right now, guys, tells you just how little talent this Cincinnati Bengals defense has with the injuries that they currently are plagued with. So you take a look at the team trends this year, and the Steelers certainly have the advantage in this side of the ball, so it should be an offensive football game here, in my opinion. The Bengals have really struggled all season long, and now with all these injuries that they've been dealing with lately, it's just not been very good. And the one thing that this defense can hang their hat on is that they're top 10 in turning the ball over. So the Steelers, it has to be paramount for them to not turn the ball over and protect the ball here at home in Week 18. So the points per game trends show the Steelers score 23.9 points per game with Russell Wilson at quarterback this year, and the Bengals defense gives up 26.1 points per game this year, which would predict 26 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers at home here in Week 18. You've been following along here. That would predict a 26-24 win for the Pittsburgh Steelers here at home in the season finale. So that's within the margin of error. When you do these kind of stat analysis here, usually the margin of error is 3 points. So the Bengals are certainly within that margin of error, especially since the Steelers defense hasn't been playing nearly as well as it was at the beginning of the season. So this is certainly one that the trends predict to go down to the wire here in Week 18. So still to come here on the Steelers Talk preview for the season finale in Week 18. Keys to victory versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to let you guys know how the Steelers can stop Joe Burrow or at least contain Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati Bengals passing attack. And then I got my Week 18 score prediction for you guys at the end of today's show. So make sure you guys don't miss that. Before we get into the rest of today's content on the preview, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You guys can see here for the college football playoffs, I'm going to be taking the more on Melquan Stovall's receiving yards. I'm taking the more on Will Howard's passing yards, and I'm taking the more on Carnell Tate's receiving and rushing touchdowns for this week's matchup. So download the PrizePicks app today if you haven't already, and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So my keys to victory here for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in Week 18. Number 1 is get after Joe Burrow, because this is not a very good offensive line here in Cincinnati. Now, Burrow had a very good game against the Steelers, back in Week 13. Over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He did have a pick, but, this is somebody that's been playing MVP caliber football all season long. He's been carrying this team over this 4-game winning streak, which has put the Bengals in position to maybe even sneak into the playoffs here. My scouting report here on Burrow, he is an elite NFL quarterback. He is in the elite of the elite tier for me. Top 4 quarterback in the league. You can say that maybe he doesn't have the most elite physical skill set, but all the nuances of the position, this guy is a master at. Footwork, touch, accuracy, throwing mechanics, playmaking out of structure, a natural feel for playmaking when he's outside the pocket, man. He's got superb throwing mechanics, and he's just got an incredible feel for the game. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He knows how to target Jamar and T extremely well. And the way that you got to stop him is you got to put him on the ground, plain and simply, man. You take a look at Cincinnati's offensive line, PFF grades, and ranks this year. This is a really bad offensive line, man. You look at where all these guys rank at their given positions. I don't know if there's one person on here that is an above-average player at their position. Now, Orlando Brown Jr., when he's healthy, is pretty good, but this season's been a down year for him. Ted Karras has been decent throughout his career, but he's currently ranking 24th out of 42 eligible centers, according to Pro Football Focus. And I like Amarius Mims, but he's still a little bit raw, and he still has a little ways to go, and he might not even play this week. I do think he will play, but this is an offensive line that the Steelers pass rush can abuse, and I expect them to abuse this weekend here. I'm looking at TJ Watt. I don't care if your ankle's hurting, man. You got to get the job done if you're on the field. Alex Highsmith, he's been doing a phenomenal job these last 3 weeks. Needs to continue to do so. Nick Herbig, when you get in there, man, make a big play against this team like you did last time when you got that strip sack on Joe Burrow in the 4th quarter. I mean, you got to make big plays on this defensive line. They're making as much money as they are for a reason. They got to make their money on Saturday night. Second thing the Steelers need to do is contain Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and it's going to be easier said than done. Both of these guys had really, really good games against the Steelers previously, and you take a look here at what these guys were able to do in Week 13, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, I will say that the target-to-reception ratio is a little bit worse than what they usually get. The Steelers' defense did a pretty decent job, I'd say, against these guys, but, a touchdown apiece, over a first down per catch for both of them. I do expect these guys to get their licks, but the Steelers need to do a good job at limiting those. And last time that these two teams played, Joey Porter Jr. was matched up on T. Higgins, and Dante Jackson was the one that was locked in on Jamar Chase. Now, that worries me a little bit because Dante hasn't been very good in coverage this year, all right? So I honestly think his best day coverage-wise might have been against the Bengals in Week 13. Can he replicate that? Can he keep Jamar to under 100 yards? Once again, that's going to be a big question mark in this football game for me. Number 3, key to victory for the Steelers this week is don't let Trey Hendrickson loose because he's got 14 sacks this year, which is tied for the league lead with, guess who, Myles Garrett. So Hendrickson has had a really, really good season this year, man. And I think that, Dan Moore Jr. has gotten worse and worse as the season has gone on. I'm really hoping Dan can have a bounce-back game this week and stop Trey Hendrickson. 4th key to victory here is to feed George Pickens, all right? Because George Pickens has been an absolute monster against the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if anybody against any team has a higher yards per reception or yards per catch than George Pickens has against the Cincinnati Bengals. 27.5 yards per catch against this football team in his career, man. 15 catches, 413 yards, and 4 tuds. This guy can take it to the house at any moment, especially because he's going to be going up against Cam Taylor-Britt, who is not, I would consider somebody that's a number 1 starting corner in the National Football League. And plain and simply, guys, my message to George Pickens, didn't have a great week last week in your return versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Trent McDuffie kind of got in your face and got in your grill. This week, no excuses, man. Make Cam Taylor-Britt your freaking bitch this week, GP. Go out there, have a big game, get Russ cooking again, and that's my final key to victory for you guys. Let Russ cook. Now, I know what you're saying. Jack, the offense only scored 10 points versus Kansas City. The offense hasn't been as good. But when was the offense at its best? It was before George Pickens got hurt, and it was when Russell Wilson was throwing the ball multiple times. 38 times the last time these two teams linked up. Russell Wilson threw the football, had 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is a team that Russell Wilson can absolutely dice up. He did it earlier in the year. Now that he has all of his weapons back healthy, and Jaylen Warren is even playing some really good football right now, and he's getting hot at the right time. I expect Russell Wilson to have a bounce-back performance on Saturday, and anything less, I'll be pretty disappointed in QB1. Now, my score prediction here. I'm going to go with the Steelers to win. I think it's going to be relatively close. I'm going to go 31-27. Steelers win. Now, I know given the recent offensive struggles, I'm sure some of you at home are laughing at me right now for even predicting the Steelers to score 31. But this is a defense in Cincinnati that they have ripped apart with Kenny Pickett. They ripped apart with Mason Rudolph, and they ripped apart with Russell Wilson earlier this year. I think they get past that 30-point threshold yet again. And I think the Steelers defense will be improved this week, but I do think Burrow, Chase, and Higgins will get their licks in. I'm going to go 31-27, big-time victory. They're going to make a big play in the fourth quarter and deliver the win heading into the postseason. So now it's your turn. Predict the score for me of Pittsburgh versus Bengals down there in the comments section. I got 31-27 Steelers win. Let me know your prediction down there in the comments. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Again, we're going to be going live for this football game, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, an hour and a half before the 8 o'clock kick Eastern Time, of course. And, it's going to be the regular season finale. This has been an unbelievable season here on Steelers Talk, and it's just getting started as far as I'm concerned because the playoffs start next week. All right, so click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive Steelers coverage for free every single day. All right, our segments are out of the way here, Coop.
All right. After that segment, I have a little more confidence that we can win and we can go on a bit of a run here.
What did I say that convinced you?
I think you're correct in the fact that we kind of own the Bengals, especially offensively. We kind of own the Bengals.
Yep.
And that was the best offensive game they played all season.
Yes.
So they need to do that again. And if they do that on Saturday,
then you play the Texans.
Exactly. I have faith you can go into Houston, play the Texans, and put together a good performance.
Yeah, and I think it's more than fair to say, that they could win this week, they could win against Houston, and then lose in the divisional round to Kansas City or Buffalo. I think that's more than fair to say. Because, Cincinnati or Kansas City and Buffalo, those teams are going to be tough nuts to crack, pause. But, this is a Steelers team that has shown some good stuff this year. And I think people forget that because they want to live in the moment. And, sports are a very present-based business.
Absolutely.
Where it's like if you've lost your last 3 games and if you've lost the way that the Steelers have lost, I cannot blame anybody for feeling bad about this Steelers team right now. I can't blame anybody. But I'm somebody where it's my job to look at the entire big picture. And, I've seen this team play good football this year, man. I know it's within this locker room. It's just a matter of getting it out here at just the right time, and hopefully they can come out with a win on Saturday night. $5 super chat from my man Dylan Lewandowski. Says, if Baltimore wins and secures the division, do we bench our starters and prepare to go on the road for the playoffs? Baltimore, Cleveland plays before we do. Yes. When it comes to when sitting your starters, I don't think you do that.
No, because we still need to win to get the 5 seed.
Because here's the thing. I would much rather play Houston than play Baltimore.
Yes.
I think you can beat both, but Baltimore just has way more talent. They're a much better football team.
Across the board.
And by the way, who knows? Maybe the Patriots pull a upset out of their ass and they beat the Bills. And you're playing the Bills as the 6th seed, which you do not want.
Bills
all
are
right?
the worst matchup in the playoffs for the Steelers.
Yeah, I would agree. And Kansas City's also, I would say, after that debacle on Wednesday, I'd say Kansas City's probably not a great matchup either. But, anything to avoid Buffalo. And if you win this week, you avoid Buffalo no matter what. All right? So I think the Steelers, if you're the Steelers, man, you play your starters. And, whatever happens, happens. If somebody gets injured, that's the way football goes sometimes, man. But, you got to play your cards the best that you can. And, I say even if Baltimore wins, I say you bring out your starters out there. Now, here's what I will say, Coop. This is a good question, Dylan. If the game gets out of hand, either way. Then I would bench the guys you can't live without. I would bench TJ. I'd bench GP.
I'd let Fields get some reps.
See what he can do. But it has to be a blowout either way. For me to bench any players here, because here's the thing, Dylan. You want to get that stench off of you. All right. Right now, this Steelers team stinks. All right. They haven't showered in 4 weeks. They need to get that shower before this playoffs, man, to start feeling good and fresh and clean about themselves. And if you bench all of your starters and you pretty much just say, here you go, Bengals, take this win, that stench is going to be following you into the postseason. That's not what I want. I want the Steelers to play their starters. I want them to go out there and get a win against a team that's very hot right now. They're feeling very good about themselves, very confident heading into our building. Can you stop them? And if you can, and you can at least contain that offense this week, and you can play a good week of defensive football, you can feel good about your chances going into the postseason, all right? So I'm not a big fan of benching starters the week before, especially when you're coming off of 3 blowout losses.
I don't care about pressures. You need to get to Joe Burrow, and you need to get him on the ground.
Need TJ Watt, need Alex Highsmith, need Nick Herbig, need Cam Hayward. I mean, these guys are getting...
Preston Smith even plays.
Yes. I mean, you need to get to the quarterback, man. It's absolutely paramount, okay? I think that this is a Steelers team that can win a playoff game. And honestly, let's talk about this. If the Steelers make it to the postseason, they win 1 playoff game and they lose in the divisional, is it a successful season for the Steelers? I'm going to answer yes to that question.
I would say yeah.
Because it's momentum, okay? Last year, you were a team that made the postseason and lost in the first round. This year, if you get a playoff win, you went from a team that had no shot in the playoffs to a team that won a playoff game. That is positive upward movement from year to year. All right? And that is a successful season. All right? And if you're saying it's only a successful season if the Steelers win the Super Bowl, and you're simultaneously saying there's no chance the Steelers can win the Super Bowl, what are we talking about here? I see people on Steelers Twitter saying, this season is a failure if they don't win the Super Bowl. And then like two tweets later, they say this team has a 0% chance of winning a Super Bowl. Where it's like, it's only a failure if you don't win a Super Bowl if you're a team capable of winning one.
If you're the Chiefs.
If you're the Chiefs, if you're the Bills, if you're a team that's like a favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like, those are the only teams in the game where it's an absolute failure if they don't win it. I would say the Steelers are a Super Bowl dark horse right now. I wouldn't consider them a true contender, and I wouldn't consider them a favorite. I think they're a dark horse.
I don't even think they're a dark horse at this point. They got to show me more. But
if they beat Burrow at home this week and they beat them by multiple scores, would you change your tune?
No.
No? I think it's fair to say a dark horse, because a dark horse is like very low percent, but it's still theoretically possible. You don't think that this Steelers team has enough talent to do it? I think they do. They were a top 5 scoring offense at one point this year.
I guess
with
we'll
Russell
find
Wilson.
Out on Saturday.
We will find out, man. Maybe I'm just drinking the hopia, man. It might just be my Steelers fan delusion, and I might just be fanboying out
We
here.
also have a special surprise for you on Thursday.
Do we?
We do.
I'm blanking on the surprise.
You told me about it.
Oh, yeah, but it's going to show on the Saturday because we're doing it after the live show.
It'll show on Saturday.
So Coop is getting your hopes up here, guys. But we got 250 people watching today. I want to thank each and every one of you guys in the chat. Shout out to Sasha.
Appreciate
Shout
you,
out to
real
I'm
ones.
Shifty. Shout out to David Bowers, Hip Hop Anonymous. We got Brandon B, Pittsburgh Reels. He says, "What's up, Jack?" Pittsburgh Reels says, "Jerry Sperry." What does that mean? Is he comparing me to Jerry Dulac?
Or Jerry Springer.
Maybe Jerry Springer? Christian Andujar says, "Why hasn't Lamar won a Super Bowl with offense? Who's clearly the better quarterback?" I don't know who he's talking about there, but when it comes to playing the Ravens, Coop, I know you're probably feeling there's no chance they can beat them. I think they can. Lamar Jackson is known for shrinking in the playoffs and shrinking against the Steelers.
Yes, he is.
You combine both of those elements, I feel like the Steelers can win a game in the postseason against Baltimore. Could they lose the game? Sure. But I still think they could absolutely win that game. I don't think it's a definite win for Baltimore. Dylan says, "Great points. Makes sense." Appreciate you, Dylan. Thanks for the question. It was a good question.
All right, you ready to get on out of here?
Yeah, man. Let's get out of here. I appreciate you guys. If you believe in the Steelers this year or not, I mean, this is a community. We're a family. Sometimes we disagree, but we have our reasons,
I'm sure
right?
by Saturday I'll be ready to drink the Super Bowl Kool-Aid again.
I'm not even drinking the Super Bowl Kool-Aid. I'm in the one playoff win category right now. That's what I'm hoping for. Anything beyond a playoff win this year, I'm good with the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right? And I'm hopeful that you get a couple pieces on the O-line this offseason. This team is not that far away from taking that next step, man. Maybe you somehow get Sam Darnold in here. I don't know what steps need to be taken. But I think this is a team that has the talent to make some noise. So I'm going to continue to have hope, continue to have optimism. I hope you are as well. If you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. But we're going to say goodbye for today's show, guys.
See you Thursday.
Thank you so much for all of your support. We'll see you guys on Thursday, 5 or 5:30 p.m. We still have to figure that out. But until then, here we go, Steelers.